Uh-oh. So, H. Foley, everybody.
Hey, how you doing, Cory? Good to see you, buddy.
Good seeing you, dude. It's been probably a decade or so since we've seen each other.
Yeah, is it about that?
Yeah.
The last image I have of you is you and I standing at the corner of the bar at the Raven Lounge. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense because I tell that story now often still about the last time I saw you was like right when you were about to make the New York move.
Okay.
And it was a Raven night, and it was like I had a wrestling show the next day, so I had to leave like kind of earlier, and I was like leaving, and you like kissed me on my face because you were like really drunk, and and I had not been kissed on my face much from that, so I just felt this bristly beard on my face, and I was like, hey, I don't want that on me anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
No, I didn't have a problem with it, but I was just I knew then that bristly faces aren't what I want on my face.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad you made that. I'm glad I helped you to realize your sexuality. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was pretty certain before that.
But when you grabbed my nuts, I kind of, it was kind of like the.
When you took my temperature.
I don't remember that. I don't remember. I think it was just affection. I don't think it was anything sexual.
Oh no, of course it wasn't.
Making a move. You did have a tight little body back then. I'll tell you that, pal.
Well, you know, I did. I was little. I was quite little back then. But now I'm a grown up. I'm a grown up man now.
How old were you? So that had to be. If it was right before I was about to move to New York, it would have to have been December of 2012.
Okay. I'm 36 now. I mean,
okay.
I just
so
had
you're 29.
Yeah, I just had the body of a child back then. I was still.
Yeah, you were always in shape. You were always doing the wrestling and working out and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I still do.
From what I remember, you always had good-looking girls around you.
Do you remember that?
I believe so.
All right. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I don't remember that.
I don't remember much of those days, to be honest with you. Every once in a while, someone will come up to me and they'll be like, they'll say a story or something like that. And I'll be like, yeah, that's great. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. We were playing it pretty fast and loose back then.
Yeah. I've been like really like the people who stood out to me the most and the people whose like bits stood out to me the most and the people who are like, that's something special. I made sure I've had a point to get them like on the show and wanted to have conversations with them. Like I had Chris on twice. I've been trying to get Monroe on. We hung out at a show. He came and hung out, but I haven't had him on the podcast yet. I know he's got a cool little podcast now, and I had what was that kid's name? Well, I also had Daryl Charles on. I want to have James Heskey. Like a lot of you guys really stood out to me as like, wow, this is a cool little troupe we got going on.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And you and Chris ran that thing. To me, you guys were the main ones.
Yeah, it started out with Conrad and Chris, and then I came on a few months down the road, and then eventually Cassidy, Kevin, Ryan, Shaner, all those guys. It just kind of changed hands over and over. But it was a good time. Yeah. Raven was fun.
Yeah.
Long live the Raven Lounge.
Long live the Raven Lounge. The point I had Cotton on here twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing is cool. Part of me wanting to do this podcast is I want to be able to tell you that you're fucking special on the record, where I'm telling you like I recognize something in you that motivated me or inspired me in some way. Like I got a chance to tell Chris on the podcast, like, dude, you're a superstar to me. Like The rest of the world hasn't seen it yet, but they're gonna.
I'm in my underwear right now. What are you talking about? But that's very nice of you, man. I really appreciate that. And I think you got something special too, and that's very nice of you. And it's nice that you got to tell Chris that before before it was too late.
Yeah,
and that's something that's important.
I saw you from across the room at his service.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time I physically saw you, but I didn't come up and talk to you or anything.
Mm-hmm. You know what Cassidy's dad said to Cassidy at the memorial service? He walked up to Cassidy and was like, "Man, Foley got big."
You look exactly the same.
No, dude, it's terrible. And you know what's crazy, man, is
you haven't aged a day, maybe 2 days. That's it.
Face-wise, genetically, I'm supposed to be attractive, technically, but I've just worked so hard to not be.
Right.
That it's this is what you see in front of you. But I always thought I was fat, man. And like I look back at pictures, like I looked at this picture from the All-Star game my senior year in high school. It was in the spring. And I looked at this picture maybe like 5-6 years ago, and I was like your size. I was like in shape, but like in my head back then, I thought I was fat. Right. And now I'm actually fat, and I think I'm fat. So it like never ends. The whole circle never ends. I don't know if that's body dysmorphia or what it is.
Totally is. It totally, dude. When you first met me, I had an eating disorder. Like I was a little because I was abusing laxatives. I was shitting every fucking day. Like I binge and purge, and I didn't think I was in good shape. I was just, I didn't know how to use the weight room.
It's weird. It's weird. Not that I would take a second of it back, but I think my strange relationship with food and like emotional eating and stuff like that, it really came from wrestling in high school. It was like a really, really, it was a really, really hard trip. And that was something that started because they took it pretty seriously at my high school. And that's something that started.
You make weight. You gotta bulk up. You gotta change your size a lot.
Yeah. I was about 230 or 225 for football every year. And then I would go from that to 171 pounds in about a month. And, it was just a constant regimen and a constant routine. And I think it just fucked me up a little bit. But not that I'm making an excuse of it. Uncle Hank likes his Twinkies. I'm not going to say that, but it's strange. And again, not that I would take any of it back. It was the best experience of my life.
I've been digging your new podcast. It's Are You Garbage?
Are You Garbage? Brand new podcast. Me and Kevin Ryan. We sit down with your favorite comedians and find out whether they grew up classy or they grew up trashy or if they're garbage now or were garbage. It's fun. And we just do it through a series of questions. Really simple stuff. It's not about, money. If you grew up in a big house, grew up in a small house, 2 parents, 1 parent, no parent, none of that stuff matters. It's something that's inside of you and inside of your parents. You know what I mean? Like the simplest things are like, what kind of mayonnaise did you have growing up? What did you have? Do you remember? Was it Hellman's or was it Miracle Whip?
Store brand mayonnaise.
Okay, as long as it wasn't Miracle Whip. If it's a Miracle Whip, you're fucking garbage. All right, that's the hard line right there.
There was a grocery store near us called O&O. I think it was called O&O.
Oh, that sounds bad. That sounds trashy, Core. I'm not gonna lie.
We had O&O down the street, and they had their brand name. The store brand name was called Why Pay More. And pay more mayonnaise.
Well, I got bad news for you, buddy. You're garbage. I'll tell you that right now. Why pay more brand? Holy shit. Woo. Might as well be called We Cut Some Corners. You know what I mean? We cut some corners applesauce.
Ingredients not reliable.
Ah, that's too funny. Dude, every fucking wrestler I see has one of those things in their hand. Corey, just for the listener, Corey just pulled out a gallon jug of water. I love it. You're connected to that thing all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, all the time.
That's great, man. Good for you.
How many wrestlers do you know?
Well, actually, a close friend of mine that I grew up with got into wrestling. I guess it would be somewhere in the early 2000s. He wrestled for CZW. locally in Philly. Do you know CZW?
That's where I grew up, man. That's where I started. I started in CCW when I was 15 years old.
Oh, I grew up with the wife beater.
Oh, I know, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with wife beater too. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
was a
funny.
kid. I was a kid. He knows. If you talk to him, he knows me.
Yeah, we don't talk that much anymore, unfortunately, but he's a great guy.
I still quote him all the time because we used to play this game at the gym. Me and some of the other young students, where we would grab this black jump rope and we'd take the handle and act like it was a microphone, and we'd tell jokes to each other like we were doing stand-up. This is before I ever did stand-up, but it was always something I wanted to do. And then Matt grabbed the mic and he was like, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, hey, how's it going? How's it going?" He goes, he went, I went to a wedding last week," and then he goes, "Now you say, who got married? Who got married? 2 antennas. Now you say, how was it? How was it? The wedding stunk, but the reception was great."
Wow, that's funny. He was always funny in high school. We were in the same group of best friends together, and he's a super funny guy. A lot of the roots of my comedy are shaped from that time period. You know what I mean? Like my group of friends, right. And he was one of them, and he was hysterical.
Love that guy.
Yeah, I love him too.
I know my best friend Rick used to work with him on the truck, and he said that Peter would like close an eye and act like he was falling asleep behind the wheel, just to fuck with Rick when he was driving.
God, that's funny.
A lot of funny stories from that guy. But yeah, that was even that was even longer ago than when you and I knew each other, which feels like.
Oh, so yeah, it's the original question. So for a while, I was around him and the other guys that he wrestled with, and they always had those. They were always chugging water out of a.
It's a plug-in.
Gallon thing. What do you got? An engineer over there?
No, just roommates trying to figure shit out in the kitchen, and he's asking me a lot of questions.
So it's like the start of a beheading video now. He's just looking off cam.
So, what has been like the most like, yep, that's garbage, the thing that's happened on the podcast so far?
The why pay more is up there. I'm not gonna lie, but things like that, getting into fights with family members at funerals or weddings, different kind of breakups and shit like that. Things that you ate when you were a kid. If you had this in the house, if you had that in the house, having turkey on any other day but Thanksgiving is a real big one. Driving to another state with the sole purpose of buying fireworks. That's a pretty big trashy move right there. Yeah. And it's funny because Kevin and I are both garbage. He's garbage from Bucks County, PA, and I'm garbage from. I was born in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we're both garbage, so we recognize it. And the whole purpose of the podcast is just to show that we're all garbage.
Right.
So
right.
We always find something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like somebody might come out of the podcast and, we say that they're classy, but there's still garbage moves involved in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
it makes us all unique and all the same at the same time, which is nice.
Our differences unite us.
That's right. Our differences and our likenesses too. Yeah. That was the dumbest thing I ever said. Go ahead. Our differences and our likeness unite us. Jesus, I sound like I should be running for governor. I sound like a fucking moron.
So, how's this quarantine affecting your dates? Like, did you have to cancel stuff, or was it mostly just like mics you've been hitting? Now you can't do anything?
No, I haven't done mics in a few years. There was a lot of money left on the table, but things were more postponed than canceled, so that's good. I work pretty steadily in the city, hosting a lot. My home club's New York Comedy Club. So, that was obviously affected. And, career-wise, you just have to shift gears a little bit. I was in a movie that was going into Tribeca, the film festival. So that was kind of a bummer. That took me a long time to get to that point. But that'll be postponed. Once we're back, we'll be back. So you just got to shift gears a little bit. Just, Kevin and I have been just, we started doing a daily podcast of our first podcast, the Hard Feelings podcast. And we upgraded the Are You Garbage podcast to 2 days a week. It's good because actually the quarantine helps you get a little bit bigger guests, makes your reach a little bit stronger. People are more likely to sit down with you rather than if they were running around the city. And, you just got to put your energies into different things. Focus on, trying to book content up online and all that kind of stuff. And, that's basically it.
Yeah, I've been getting more people responding. I mean, I'll still see what my message has been seen but not replied to. And I'm like, whatever. I can't take that personally because what do I have to offer some people? Like some bigger guests or whatever. But I've had some pretty amazing. Hang on. Turn the fan part off. What's
that? Wow. This should be the podcast. I got to see these guys. What the hell's going on over there? Was that a teapot I just heard? Was that a teapot?
No. The overhead light that we put in over the stove. Me and my brother originally got this place, and we put this overhead the stove thing. It has a fan and a light on it.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, the fan just started going but we stopped turning the fan on for that reason. But my friend Chris here was pressing all the buttons because he didn't know how to turn the light on.
The look on your face. It's too funny. This is how we're doing it, folks.
Yeah.
In-home recording the Corona.
It's an ever-evolving process. You know what I mean? I've been doing this bit on stage. Well, I'm not doing it now because I haven't been on stage in a couple weeks. But I was saying, when you think someone's got it all figured out, you're wrong because, birds, they got the whole sky. Some of them still get hit by cars. We don't got it all figured out, folks.
Sure, that's right. No worries.
We're all figuring it out.
We're all figuring it out, baby. We're all figuring it out now. So what's the pod mainly about? What do you got going on?
I kind of usually before I used to do it where I would make sure I get in this question and that question and touch on this topic or that topic. But no, now it's more like a cool hang sesh where it's I want it to be more like a podcast that I'd want to listen to if I was a podcast listener instead of make sure he asks this question or that question. But I have a few things that I stick to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't stick to as many things as I used to.
I gotcha.
So, you from Wilkes-Barre?
I was born in Wilkes-Barre, yeah.
Yeah. You got siblings, and did you grow up with both parents? Because it's funny for you to have a show called Are You Garbage seems like you're a guy who's come from a very damaged place. But I mean, that's from having a weight problem.
Have you met me? I am damaged. I'm extremely damaged.
Yeah.
Grew up, great upbringing, good family. Father was in the Navy. My mom was an office manager, then became a CFO for a while, and grew up with my brother. Then we moved down in fourth grade. I moved down to Bluebell to be near my mom's family, but we have my dad's whole side of the family up there. Come from a big, Irish-Italian family.
That's something Cotton and I had a conversation about, the things we had in common was his mom also had MS, like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So we had discussions on that, and then his father was a preacher or something.
His father was a public school teacher in Chester, and he was the pastor of his church in South Philly. Still is, I think. Retired teacher, though.
Did you communicate with him a lot when he was living in Jersey City?
all the time, of course. Yeah.
I feel like you and I probably have a lot of mutual friends in that scene.
What scene?
In like the New York scene. Do you know the Comedy Fight Club dudes? Matt Maron.
I know Matt Maron a little bit. Yeah, that's the only one I can say I know. Great guy, nice guy.
Yeah, him and I had the same. If you go back and listen to episode we did together of my podcast, we had the same like brain stuff. I don't know if you even know about that. I had the brain surgery in 2011.
He did have brain surgery, and no, I didn't know that about you. What happened?
So mine was AVMs. It's a thing that you're in utero. It's something that happens with you in your development in your mom's stomach.
Okay.
It's like, just your veins that go like this in your frontal lobe here.
Okay.
I mean, they just go straight normal like this. They just curled up. They just twisted.
That's what happens. Okay.
And I had a big seizure with him. Fortunately, he didn't have to have a big seizure first. He was getting treatment for concussions because he had concussions back in his in-ring days. He had a few concussions, and he just wanted to get like treatments, and they found it in the brain scans when he was getting the treatment for his concussions.
Interesting.
But his was like in the back of his head. Mine was up here in the front. Weird. No, Zach Amico?
I know Zach. That's I just did a Real Last podcast with him. He's Lewis's co-host.
Yeah,
Great guy.
I did that podcast a couple years ago.
Funny guy, man. Funny. He's like a sniper. He's great.
Yeah. Eli Sayers. Do you know Eli?
I know Eli a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
What is this?
What is this? We're just talking about other people, not even us. We're just talking about other people.
You know Danny? I know Danny. Okay, cool.
Hey, this other people might not know. Hey, do you know my brother?
That's funny. What are you cooking over there?
Some meat.
Bottom round roast.
Oh my God, that was the most Philly accent I've ever heard in my life. That was perfect. Bottom round roast. You got a fucking problem with it? I'll come up there and smack your fat head, fat boy.
You got me, dude.
I love it. That was great.
Definitely Philly.
I love that accent. That's awesome. Who's that, your brother?
No. It's my friend Chris.
I am now.
Well,
that was great.
My new roommate.
There you go. You guys are locked in together for a little while. Keep those roasts coming, baby. You got me hungry.
So what is your relationship with yourself? I mean, I know you're self-deprecating because we're comics. We have to be sometimes. But I mean, when it comes to actual conversations that you have with yourself, like I've learned, this is a newer method that I've gone where I won't call myself dumb or stupid anymore. Like I don't do that. I'll just usually be like, I was being a real ding dong there, and it'll be like that forgiving moment and move right past it.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I have a terrible opinion of myself.
Why?
Sometimes, but you know what's weird? It's funny, that line between arrogance, vanity, and low self-esteem, how like that little pool swirls together. Because I would say I have low self-esteem and I have zero confidence, but I also think that I'm awesome and have an ego, and I'm arrogant and I'm vain. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's a very strange thing. But I would say overall I hate myself.
But do you think there's like a fine line there between like what you are and what you offer? Like there's something. If you're hard on yourself, but then at the same time pretty arrogant, like how do you juggle that line? How do you like stay pretty?
Well, I mean, the arrogance would only be something that would come out, with real close friends. As far as like, and I don't even know if arrogance is the right word. Just you have moments where you think you're hot shit, and you have moments where most of the time I think I'm a fat piece of shit and I hate myself. But then you have moments every once in a while you're like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? But I think it's all just low. I think they're all just symptoms of, being fucked up and having a low self-esteem. You know what I mean?
Like compensating.
Something. It's something weird. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like what is your normal confidence level? I mean, do you have a girlfriend? Do you?
Hey, fatty, you ever kiss a girl? I usually sit on the side at the dances, if that's what you mean. No, what do you mean? I'm in my bedroom right now. Me and my girlfriend, we live together.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know any girls? Huh? Have you ever talked to a girl? Would you be embarrassed to talk to a girl? That's funny.
This is an
What
intervention.
I'm not a fucking nerd in fucking 9th grade. Jesus. You said that so sincere. That was so funny.
Well, I think that the way you say that, I like to think that kind of defines me. Like, I think that sincerity kind of defines me, and and I really don't ever say anything I don't mean, unless I automatically tell you I'm joking right after I say it. Like,
that's good.
I won't come out and fucking lie to you, because I know if I'm lying to you, then I have to commit to that lie, and I have to lie to myself, and then there's become some sort of twisted up narrative in my head that I don't know what the truth is anymore. I want to make sure.
Sure. I like that. I like that a lot. I don't practice it, but I like that because it does. The more shit that you lie about and the more stuff that you're covering up and not being honest with yourself about, I will admit from experience that it tangles up the CPU of your brain. You know what I mean? It does bog you down because you're always thinking about that, looking over your shoulder or whatever. You know, metaphorically speaking, not physically looking over your shoulder. I like
you
that.
say one thing to somebody else. You say something to somebody and you go, "Yeah, don't tell anybody I said that to you." You know they're gonna tell somebody else. You know it's gonna come back around somehow, and you're gonna get caught in that lie, and you're gonna have to. Then your integrity's gone. You don't have any integrity anymore. Nobody can trust you.
Sure. I don't know if I have any integrity. I don't know. It just makes you think of that Seinfeld line. You're not an artist and you have no integrity.
You know, do you know, is there any documentaries, like comedy documentaries that you're into? I'm like such a nerd for stand-up comedy documentaries.
I mean, not so much to be. I mean, I'm a terrible student of comedy. I'll admit that. I can't make it through 5 minutes of a special. Yeah, I can't make it through 5 minutes of a special. Things that inspired me as far as comedy, I would have to say would be, you know, just the time that I saw them. You know, both Eddie Murphy specials, Chappelle's 2 early specials, listening to Dice's the tape that he did in Philly, the album that he did in Philly. It might have been a special. I don't know if I saw it, but I had it as a tape, as a cassette at lacrosse camp. We must have listened to it 100,000 times. At one point, I had the whole thing memorized. And then, you know, fast forward. Did you watch Louie when it was on?
Yeah, totally.
I didn't watch it when it was on. I caught up 2 years later. And you know what's weird is you're talking about the Raven Lounge before. I didn't know who the fuck Louis C.K. was when I started comedy in 2008 because I started at 32. I didn't know what I was doing. And that was when he was like bubbling. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like every young comic wanted to be Louis.
Right.
And there was so many comics doing Louis that I thought were great. Like a year in, like, these guys are great. And it took Cotton and, you know, like Kevin and Cassidy to be like, they're just doing fucking Louis C.K., you fucking idiot. Like, I had no idea. But his 3 episodes of when he tries to take over the Late Show with David Letterman, right, I think is a pretty good Bible for, you know, being funny and the business of comedy and stuff like that. That and the Gary Shandling documentary, I would say, would be, you know, inspirational to me. But most of the time I take other things from different facets. You know what I mean? It's not that I'm studying comedy, you know, you're absorbing things from other places and then, you know, you put that into what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's your style of writing like? Do you like sit down and write a whole bunch of stuff, or do you like feel it out on stage and write stuff while you're going?
I went through you know, I've been doing it 11 years, so I've gone through a bunch of different, practices of how to do it. And, I'll be the first to admit, I'm probably not working as hard as I should be. But that could just be the self-deprecation in me. As far as working as hard as you should be, it would be, 24 hours a day, no sleep, fucking. But, we're as close to that as, I don't know. I don't want to sound like a fucking idiot.
No,
I went through a lot.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Don't sound like an idiot.
No, don't even associate yourself with the words fucking idiot. Get it out of your vocabulary.
This is like a therapy session. I like this kid. This is good.
Get that out of there, dude. You absolutely have worked your ass off, and you're funny and you're smart and you deserve everything you're getting. So
thank you.
If you think because
that.
you're not working as hard as you should be working, just work a little bit harder. Don't be like, well, I'm lazy, and then you accept that role. Then you just
there you go.
Stay in that victimhood.
That's good. I like that.
You're working as hard as you can right now. How many podcast days? How many days a week are you doing podcasts?
I hear you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get self-deprecating, but no, I went through a bunch of different things. Like especially like the first 5 years, I thought like you had to sit down and like write. And I got ADHD. I'm an auditory learner. Those things just didn't really work for me. But I've developed something that it's not brain surgery, but I've developed. I started listening a lot more, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I would do it casually, all while I was doing stand-up. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this would be funny, that would be funny. But now I've done it so much that I've ingrained it into not just doing what we're doing, but living it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't turn off ever. It's always going. You know what I mean? The recorder's always running. So I take those things. If me and my girlfriend are out, something happens where I'm like, oh, that's something. I'll immediately say it into my phone, into the text to, or the voice to text, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And then when I sit down to write, the next day, every couple of days, once I have a few things, then I'll structure it out and formulate it out a little bit. That's kind of the system that's been working for me.
Yeah.
And that I think is the biggest thing. Learning that, it's not just trying to come up with stuff, but listening to what's going on, because it writes itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life writes the comedy itself. You just have to have your ears open and be able to, articulate it properly to connect that memory or that emotion to the audience.
What I'm super glad for is that I have the kind of friendship with you, and I mean, even we're very loosely friends, but I would like to think we could run into each other somewhere and just catch up like no time has passed. And I feel like that now that we're talking, we haven't actually had a conversation in too long. And maybe this is just the reigniting of us having communications with each other. Because I think that we can both very much benefit from having open communication with each other.
Do you need money? Is that what's going on here? Like we could meet up in an ATM. I don't know.
But
honey, get my checkbook. The kid needs cash.
Who uses checks anymore?
Absolutely. My mom uses checks at the grocery store. And let me tell you something. That's fucking garbage. All right? She writes checks at the grocery store. Jesus. Or she did probably up until 10 years ago. Now she has I had the debit card. I swipe it.
Is it garbage if you go to the grocery store with your grandmother and she's using your mom's food stamps? Is that garbage?
No, that's not garbage. That's surviving. That's surviving. If, as you're walking through the aisles, she has you throw cans on the floor to dent the cans to get them at half price, that would be garbage.
Yeah,
that would be garbage. But no, not at all. That's the thing. The are you garbage isn't determined by social status or economic situations. It's more about character.
I grew up. I was like in the suburbs, So I'm from Bucks County too. I currently live in Bucks County, like you said, your co-host. In my neighborhood, there was like one black kid in the development I lived in, and that kid laughed at me because I used food stamps at the grocery store, like because I got made fun of by the one black kid in my neighborhood because I had food coupons.
Well, that's okay. Makes you stronger. I think being made fun of when you're a kid and being bullied and stuff like that is can sometimes be beneficial depending on the person.
I don't think we should absolutely rule like stop bullying. But of course there's a line. There's a line of absolutely like you don't say these things to kids. You don't say these lines to anybody. Like you just have to if I got accepted by everybody, what would motivate me to do all the cool things that I do now?
Mm-hmm.
You get everything right every time. You're going to have a meltdown when you get something wrong.
You know what's crazy is that, like, since I'm older, I say, oh, bullying was so much worse back then. Like this cyberbullying stuff is whatever. But it's not. It's a pretty serious thing. But you know what's something that the kids these days have really stepped up on and is the craziest fucking thing that I've ever heard. And nobody even thought of this when I was a kid or when you were a kid, is that swatting shit. Have you ever heard about swatting? Where somebody will call 911 and say like you're holed up in an apartment and the SWAT team will show up?
That's awful. Why would
Dude, gamers do that to each other because if they get in like an argument online fighting, playing a game, they'll fucking swat each other. That is the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard.
How do they know where somebody lives?
I don't know. They're hackers. They know everything. They know what's going on.
You just sounded like a grandpa.
They're on their Xboxes. I don't know. Their X stations, whatever the hell it's called, playing Fortcom. I don't know what the kids are doing. They're on that TikTok showing their titties. I don't know what these kids are doing. Sorry, I just dropped you.
That's okay. So what are you recording on? What is your are you doing like Zoom these days for the Are You Garbage? Or are you doing like the Skypes? How are you doing
We're using Zoom. We're using Zoom right now. We were doing Are You Garbage at Gotham Studios in the city, and Hard Feelings podcast went through a multitude of different networks and places to record and studios and shit like that. But then we finally just got the actual Zoom, the multi-channel recorder, and two mics, and that sounds better than most of the fucking studios we were in. But now that we can't be together and see each other, we use the Zoom app. But now that we know it's going to be a little bit more of a long-term situation, the quarantine, we've took some money from the podcast and invested it back into some equipment to make the recording sound better.
Yeah, a little more.
Yeah, like right now, you got a mic and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. I mean, this was a long time, dude. I was honestly doing it from my iPad for a long time. I think I started it at a studio. That's where I had like Foley come in. I mean, not Foley, you're Foley. I had what's the kid's name? Why am I blanking on that kid's name? He was friends with Cotton, and he got out of comedy, and he was on one of my early episodes.
White guy, black guy?
He was a black dude, yeah. But he wanted to get in the wrestling business, so I introduced him to some of my wrestling friends.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember his name. I have to look through right now to figure it out. I've been doing this thing where I've been trying to like, if I can't figure something out, I'll just sit on it for a while and eventually remember it instead of like going right to my phone and scratching every itch as soon as it comes up. Just so I'm able to continue to use my brain. But
all right, that drives me crazy too.
But right now, I'm in kind of a pinch because I want to talk about this with you. He was a cool dude. I liked him from the Raven days.
Black guy that wanted to be a wrestler. I don't remember.
He didn't want to be a wrestler. He wanted to be in the wrestling business. He wanted to manage or something.
You're not talking about Keith from up the block, are you?
No. I'll tell you in a sec.
Are you going to edit this out, or are we just rolling with this?
No, man, I don't edit stuff.
This kid plays it fast and loose. I like it.
Not Jack Martin.
Jack Martin, of course.
Yeah.
There you go.
I always liked him a lot. And
Jack's a great guy, man. He's a great guy.
He was very funny, and he was talking to me about wanting to get out of stand-up, and I was like, dude, why? Like, you're so good. And I haven't heard from him or of him. I should really check in with him.
I see he was at Cotton's Memorial. We saw him.
Oh, I missed him. The only people I talked to there for like minutes was I saw Dorian and I saw Lemaire, and I said what's up to them. But other than that, I didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah, those things are tough for the chit chat and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, hi, how are ya? Not good.
Yeah. How's everything with you?
Hey, so glad we could catch up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not ideal. And I'm just excited about what's next, because I really think that after this thing ends, I think that's going to be a great time. I think that everyone's going to be missing going out, and everyone's going to be missing laughing and interacting, and missing friendships and connections. This is a uniting thing.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. And I hope that's what it is. I hope it's like, VE and VJ Day. I hope it's like the end of World War II. But the thing that, the other side of the argument would say is that has to come with full confidence. You know what I mean? That has to come with, it's definitely gone. Don't worry about it. It's over. It's behind us. I don't think it's going to be, the pessimist in me doesn't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a very slow, very, not good situation. It's going to be a slow crawl back. That's the pessimist. I hope it's not. I think that's how it's handled, and how hard it peaks and how long it's going to take and what it's going to be like after. And, are these stimulus packages going to, save these small businesses and restaurants and, clubs and bars and all that kind of stuff? Is it, and the startup, is it going to save all that, or is it just going to get them, to have a decent coffin? That's the big question.
I think there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. I think a lot of people are going to be out of work and out of money, and hopefully.
Yeah, you would hope it just picks off right where it left, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. I hope it's not because a lot of people say, the world, it could be sensationalization by the media, but it's just like, the world's never going to be the same again, and this and that, everything's going to change. I hope not, man, because that fucking shit sucks. I don't want it to be some fucking stale bullshit, and I don't know. It's starting to get annoying, obviously. I'm sure it's annoying with you down there. And, you feel terrible for people that are losing their lives and the frontline, medical staff that's dealing with this. That's a whole other thing, too. You got to keep it in perspective. You know what I mean? The goal here now is to not get sick, is to do what they're saying, keep social distance, stay at home, and fucking not get sick. Because then, shit. But it's a fucked up thing. Not that it snuck up on us, but isn't it weird? We always you think about when's the next big thing going to happen? And the way this happened, it was like a snake just slithering very slowly into the campsite. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what this looks like. Like this is what a quarantine looks like. That slow, gradual, because people, are still going out, still doing stuff, and some people are petrified and they're locked in their houses, and the hospitals are being flooded and this and that, and the police are calling out. It's weird how it the way you imagine it is so much different than the way it actually happens. Well, does that make sense?
This is sort of like the origin story that they talk about in the middle of a zombie movie.
Yes, it
Well, it
is.
started with this and it started with that. They don't show
Yes.
this part. They just tell this part.
Yes. Yes.
So
The lead in the movie would be sitting around a fire with somebody that he just met, and like they would finally have some kind of bonding moment like in the second act, and he'd be like, the first couple weeks it was all right. We ordered in, we got some wine, we hung out. Everybody thought it was going to be okay. Now you're eating your neighbor's brains.
yeah, if you're eating brains, you're a zombie.
Yeah, depends.
You're part of the problem.
I've been leaving food at my neighbor's front door just to fatten them up, just in case.
So, what is your thoughts on time travel?
That's a curveball. Jesus. Theoretically, or like, is it going on and has it happened and stuff like that?
Like, there are conspiracy theories that time travel is going to be possible, and that there are people from the future that are here that are giving us warnings. I fell into this YouTube rabbit hole a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was staying with my sisters in Brooklyn, and I turned their TV on, and this YouTube channel happened to be on, so it just kept playing. And they were like having this interview with this guy who was from the future, giving us messages about the kind of ways we should be to avoid the downfall of the world. And
sure, there's been a few of those.
Yeah, those warnings, but
There's been a few of those. No, there's been a few of those videos that people, analyze online and stuff like that. But there's also the theory that the aliens that we see, the spaceships that we see, they're actually just humanoids from the distant future coming back to monitor and warn us and stuff like that. But I mean, realistically, theoretically, on a quantum scale, I think they're starting to have a lot of evidence that it might be possible to maybe move forward.
On my Facebook Live a couple days ago, I did a like a watch along, and it's kind of like like Zach does the podcast, like the Midnight Spook Show or whatever. I did something like that for like this documentary that I found on Hulu. It was called like it was some Beyond Galactic or some shit, and I was like, and it was like so every conspiracy theory all tied in to one thing, and it was like
Great.
It was like Nazi scientists had drilled into Antarctica, and they were building spaceships that were actual like submarines that they were flying into outer space with, and somehow they developed time travel, and they were responsible for the deaths of John F. Kennedy, and they were responsible for 9/11. It's so ridiculous.
They say that if they created an anti-gravity drive machine, like if they were able to create that power plant, the submarine would be the most logical thing to use and the cheapest thing to use because it's already enclosed in and all that stuff. I've seen something similar. I don't know if it was that documentary, but about that. But it wasn't. I don't think it was the Nazis. It was. I think it was the Nazis first, and then the U.S. started doing the same thing too. And that there's whole like space battles going on between submarines in outer space, or in closed space or whatever.
At the end, they tied it into how Donald Trump just started a space force.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I'm asking this, and I actually only have two more things to talk about, and then I'll let you go because I know we don't have much time left.
Thank you, brother.
This is a time, man. This is a real time that we're living in, and this conversation, this audio, is going to outlive us. This will go beyond our life. In 20, 30 years, when someone finds what's H. Foley like, what are the messages that you give to this person who wants to really find out what you're like?
Mm-hmm.
So this is audio time travel from the time capsule, the audio time capsule that is today.
Okay.
During the quarantine, which seems so apocalyptic.
It does.
What are the messages? What if it's like your relatives? What if it's your, 23andMe? They found you, and they want to find out what you're like.
I mean, those kind of things. I've thought about that. And I think nowadays, people are more adapted to technology and stuff like that. That they will be leaving, voice messages and audio or video messages for people and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like the general public and stuff like that, crunch berries were awesome. That's what I have to say. I don't know if you guys have crunch berries and Pop Tarts and fucking Netflix and shit like that in the future. But if you don't, you fucking stink, because it was fucking rocking here. I'll tell you that. Probably eating gruel right now, fucking splitting a cockroach.
You guys really missed out on that why pay more mayonnaise.
That's right. You missed out on that why pay more. But who knows? They could be out there right now eating fucking space fruits and space Pop-Tarts. I don't fucking know. Hooking up with chicks with 4 boobs and all that.
Well, Total Recall told us anything.
Total Recall taught us. If Total Recall taught us anything, is Mars stinks. God, please suck. Until they opened it up, until they hit those vents, and it was like, yeah, all right.
So, the way I normally wrap it up is I'll usually say, hypothetically, that I've gifted you this podcast. Mm-hmm. So, the podcast is now Evolving with H. Foley. And this episode has been your pilot episode.
Okay.
Episode of your podcast, Evolving. How do you, in a Jerry Springer's final thought sort of way, tie it all up in a pretty bow?
I mean, like, what? I think you just tied it up with the bringing this full circle with the why pay more mayonnaise. That's exactly how I would have done it. Moving forward, I'd probably lose the carpet behind you. I'd keep the muscle shirt, lose the roommates, keep the pot roast. That's about it. Replace the fan in the kitchen, get the lights fixed. Steal money from my brother's room.
All valid. All valid.
Thank you, buddy.
I want to make sure you know that I'm on your team. I'm on your side. Like,
I'm on yours too, man. I really appreciate that.
I absolutely want to see what's best for you. I'm glad that you're getting some success in that podcast. I mean, probably more success than I am right now. And you deserve it. You deserve every little piece of it. So I want to help you understand how valuable you are, man. I think that you don't give yourself enough credit for it, and I want you to know I'm here for you, man. If you want to come back to Philly and hang for a day or something, come over and we'll hang after this whole thing ends.
Cory, I appreciate that, buddy.
And anything you need, man. If you need just some judgment-free conversation, you want to talk to a friend. If you need a friend, let me be that friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Very nice of you.
And I want to be a guest on your podcast because I'm very interested. It's funny because I always push for my good friends who have an interesting perspective, have a good point of view, a very unique way of looking at things. I always push to get their own podcasts, so I can have another podcast to be a guest on.
There you go.
And who has an interesting perspective and has a great voice and has a podcast, and I want to be on the podcast because I think I could answer some of the "Are you garbage?" questions pretty easily.
Of course. I'm sure we'll make that happen, brother. I really appreciate you having me on this one. Thank you so much.
Pro wrestling fan, that's every answer is going to be yes, garbage.
There you go.
Well, I hope that you have a great quarantine. And
you too, man. Be safe out there. Everybody listening, be safe as well. Please check out the Hard Feelings podcast with me and Kevin Ryan, and please check out Are You Garbage, the brand new podcast where you find out if your favorite comedians are trashy or classy.
Great.
Thank you, brother.
Love it. Be fun. Have safe.
You too, Court. Thanks, buddy.
Take care. Keep evolving.